McGraw in the Morning continues on the Big 550 KTRS.
She's back because we like her. She's Diane Troyan Kagi, and she works for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, and she has a new article in the Go section. Good morning, Diane.
Hello, McGraw. How are you?
Tell people about the Go section. What is the Go section?
Well, the Go section is the most awesome section. I know everybody loves our sports section.
Yes.
It's actually the first section I look at, too. But our Go section is where we cover music, art, entertainment, all the fun stuff that makes St. Louis an awesome place is what we have in Go.
And it comes out every Friday? Is that
It comes out Friday. You can check it out online on Thursdays, and we are updating it every day online. But, yes, you can get the print edition on Friday.
All right, good. And in this week's edition of the Go section, you have a story that blows the cover off of art fairs all around the St. Louis metropolitan area.
Well, yes, I do write about art fairs.
I did not know that the art on the square in Belleville is the number one art fair around here.
Oh my gosh! It is the number one art fair or the number two art fair, depending on the year, in the country. And what they're basing that on is how much money the artists make. Art on the square is huge. They typically $1 million of art is sold there every year among 100 artists. It's really not that big of a fair, only 100 artists, but the people who go to art on the fair love it, and they spend a lot of money.
Now, I would have lost $1 million if you would have told me that the Belleville Art Fair was bigger than, say, the Clayton Art Fair.
I know. Isn't that amazing? Now, Clayton does have more artists, and I'm guessing per artist, maybe their total is more. I'm not exactly sure. But, yes, Belleville per artist will make that's $1 million. If you break that down, oh my gosh, I have to do the math. That's $10,000 an artist.
Right. Is St. Louis unique in the amount of art fairs they have, or are art fairs sort of exploding all over the country?
Well, that's a really good question. And yes, of course, there are art fairs all over the country, but St. Louis really does have a large number of art fairs. And not only do they have a large number of art fairs, they have a large number of what would be considered really high-quality art fairs. And within the art fair community, there's a question of what is art and what is quote-unquote craft. And we have a very high number of fine art fairs. Artists from all over the country apply to get in these art fairs. For instance, this weekend we have Laumeier Art Fair. 700 artists applied for 150 slots. At Belleville in the Square, it's even tougher. Only 1 out of 10 artists get in.
Do the artists make any money?
Well, that's my question, because it's not cheap for artists to do this, right? I talked to one artist. She lives in Michigan, so she has to drive from Michigan to St. Louis, stay in a hotel. She has to pay an entry fee. All of these artists who appear have to pay to appear at the art fair, typically about $350. Your tent, these tents are very expensive, about $800. So you have to sell a lot of art to make it worth your time. But yes, they do. They wouldn't do it if the numbers didn't work out for them.
Is there one art genre, Diane, that does better than another? In other words, does the Velvet Elvis do better than the craft pottery?
Well, I personally have 16 Velvet Elvises in my house.
I know
so, yes,
you do.
I am a big fan of the Velvet Elvis myself. No, actually, what's very popular at a lot of these art fairs, especially at Laumeier, because it's Mother's Day weekend, is jewelry. Jewelry does very, very well at most art fairs.
Jewelry is the big seller.
Yeah, that's the big seller. But then, at Art on the Square, they also say the photography does very well.
Right.
And sculpture also does well.
Yeah, because you walk by some of those tents and you're like, who would buy that? But I guess that's sort of the nice thing about art, right? One man's art is another man's junk.
Yes, you're right. I agree with you.
Yeah. All right. So, do we have any idea how many art fairs are in the region every year?
Oh, that's a really good question. And because the definition is so broad, there's 4 fine arts fairs in the spring in St. Louis. Now, in terms of once you add in like what would be considered craft fairs as well, the number grows by a lot. And then in the fall, you also have as you mentioned, the art fair in Clayton. You have the Shaw Art Fair,
right.
And then you have the Masters Art Fair over in Illinois. So the number grows. But during the spring, we're going to have 4 really good art fairs. We start off with Lohmeyer, then go to Belleville, and then there's going to be a new art fair in Midtown Alley, and that's going to be the first weekend in June. And then the second weekend in June, Webster Groves has a great art fair that's really exploded.
Where is Midtown Alley? What is that?
Well, Midtown Alley, that's what people would call the area east of the Fox Theater, but west of Jefferson. So along Locust Street, you
gotcha.
know what
Yeah. Okay.
is?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
The Locust District. Okay. Good. Also, in your story, I didn't know that the Central West End Art Fair shut down.
Yeah, it did. It did. That was an institution for a really long time. It shut down a couple of years ago, and there was some new management. Things apparently didn't work out. But yeah, so there's no longer a Central West End Art Fair.
And I still got to give a shout out to the Shaw Art Fair. It highlights neighborhoods, which makes
that's your art fair, isn't it? That's right there in your neighborhood.
Yeah. Actually, I moved to a loft downtown.
Oh, that's right. You're no longer in Shaw.
Yeah, I was. The residents threw me out after.
I'm like, do they still allow you in the Shaw Art Fair?
I don't know. That's a very good question. They sort of threw tomatoes at me.
Yeah, they do have people like taking money. I'm imagining that there's probably like a big picture of you. Don't let this guy in.
That is that you do not have. You were pretty close to the truth there, Diane Chorian-Kagi. All right, so your story's in the Go section, and it's sort of a primer for this season's art fairs.
Right, exactly.
Perfect. All right, Go sections in today's paper, and you can pick up the actual Go section in supermarket counters everywhere, right?
Right, and then we also give it away for free all over town.
Diane Chorian-Kagi, good to hear your voice, and we'll have you back soon.
Oh, thank you, McGraw.
You got it. St. Louis Post-Dispatch reporter Diane Chorian-Kagi, who has a article in the Go section about art fairs. Who knew that the Belleville Art Fair was the biggest in the country? 7:26, traffic and weather. Stick around. Senator Roy Blunt's going to stop by next half hour, and Martha Quinn, the very first VJ on MTV, only show in America that has both Senator Blunt and Martha Quinn in the same show. 7:26 here on the Big 550 KT.